There are numerous studies that have recorded how many times a day we look at our phones, regardless of whether we actually need to or not. Apple knows this and has been implementing solutions to limit our phone usage and reduce distractions. Their latest attempt is focus mode, which is a bit like do not disturb but on steroids. Where screen time is more geared towards kids, focus mode is something that we can all benefit from. When used correctly, you can not only mute notifications and calls, but you can also combine it with Apple's home screen customizations to hide the apps that you find most distracting and only show the ones that you need to. And focus mode is not just useful for those times when you really need to knuckle down and do some work. It can also be used before going to bed, for example, by removing the urge to jump into Facebook or have one last go on your favourite game. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the whole process of creating a focus mode for those occasions when you really need to do some work without distraction and for more relaxed moments such as bedtime when you just want to unwind. So let's get started. To get the most out of focus mode, the first thing you have to do is clean up your home screens and organise them into what I like to call focus screens. You can see here that I have my normal day-to-day home screen with the news and weather widgets, social media apps, gaming, so on and so forth. But if I swipe left, on my next screen are only the apps that I use when I'm focused on work. I literally have 3 widgets and that's it. I have my to-do list, should something pop into my head that I need to remember, the Notes app, which is where I write down all of my thoughts about the stuff that I'm working on, and access to my files folder. That's it. I've removed all other distractions from this screen, my home screen that I use when I'm focused on work. And if I swipe left again, I have another home screen specifically set up for when I go to bed. I have the weather and calendar app, so I know what to expect tomorrow. And I have my reading apps and a couple of meditation apps to help me unwind. I've also added my to-do list app just to show you that it's possible to have the same app on more than one of your home screens. So here you can see that I have my to-do list app both on my bedtime screen and on my work focus screen. The final thing to note is the apps in my dock. These apps remain here regardless of what home screen I'm looking at. So I've kept the phone, email and messaging apps purely for emergencies, and I've replaced Safari with the settings app because it is less distracting. To set up your home screens into focus screens like these, I find the easiest way is to start by removing all of your apps to your app library and bringing them back one by one. To do this, access jiggle mode by long pressing on the screen just above your dock. Remove all the apps to your app library by clicking on the minus sign and choosing remove from home screen, and then rebuild your home screens by dragging the apps back from your library like so. To add a widget, click on the plus button in the top left corner of the screen and choose one from the list. Once you have your home screen customized into focus screens, you're ready to create your first focus mode. Click on settings and choose focus. Here, Apple has already done part of the work for us by providing us with some templates. So for a work focus, we could simply click on this template and go through the steps. However, to demonstrate the whole process, I'll exit out of this and instead I'll create a custom focus mode by clicking on the plus icon in the top right corner of the screen. Before I do, however, note that by default these modes will be shared across all your devices. So if you enable focus on your phone, the same profile will automatically be enabled on your iPad and watch, which is a nice feature. Click on the plus button and we'll choose custom. The only real difference between creating a custom focus and choosing one of Apple's templates is that you get to choose a name, colour and icon to represent your focus. I'll call mine My Work Focus and I'll choose a colour and use these books as an icon. Click next and this is where we get into the nuts and bolts of it. Here we can add the people we are happy to accept notifications and calls from whilst the phone is in focus mode. Because this is my work focus, I'll limit this to my immediate family and my boss. And as you can see, I also have calls set to favourites. I could change this, but just in case of emergencies, I'll leave it set to favourites. Note that if you didn't want to be disturbed by absolutely anyone, you could just select Allow None, but I'll stick with this setup and click Allow. On the next screen, we can choose the apps we're happy to receive notifications from. And to be honest, I prefer to have all my notifications turned off whilst I'm working, so I'll remove them by clicking on this option here. It's worth noting that by removing all apps on this screen, it doesn't prevent you from receiving calls and messages from the contacts that you listed on your previous screen. In my testing, even though I excluded all apps, I was still able to receive SMS, calls, WhatsApp and Signal messages from my allowed contacts, which is reassuring in cases of an emergency. The last option here is whether to allow time-sensitive notifications, which are things like reminders and appointments, and my preference is to have these turned on because I have the memory of a goldfish. Click to allow and that completes the main setup process, but there are a few additional options that we can change. The first is focus status, which is enabled by default. A bit like an out-of-office response, with this setting enabled, an automatic message is sent to the person trying to contact you, notifying them that you currently are not receiving notifications. The next option is where we can choose a home screen to apply to a specific focus mode. And here you can also choose to hide notification badges, which are those little red icons you see in the corner of your apps. I'll enable both of these options and I can then choose the home screen I set up earlier for this specific focus mode. In lock screen settings, you can choose to dim the lock screen, which makes it look like this, and you can choose whether to allow notifications to appear on the lock screen at all whilst having your focus mode enabled. Name and appearance is where you can change the name and colour of your focus mode. And finally, schedules and automations allow us to set up a schedule for our focus mode to turn on automatically. As you can see, there are several options here. You can choose a specific time, a location, and even have the focus mode turn on when you open a certain app, such as the Books app. Intuitively, if I click on schedule, Apple adds my normal working hours of 9 to 5, and all I have to do is click on Saturday and Sunday to remove them from my schedule. So that completes the setup process for our focus. If I want to enable it manually, I can do so here, or alternatively, I can open the control panel by swiping down from the left corner of the screen and choosing focus. Clicking on the three dots gives me even more options, and once enabled, you can see that now my home screen is set to my work focus screen. To finish up, I'll quickly demonstrate the setup for a sleep or bedtime focus. Back in settings, choose focus, and this time I'll choose the sleep focus template. As before, I can now allow notifications and calls from certain contacts, which I'll leave as none, and again, as before, I'll only enable time-sensitive notifications. If you haven't already set up a personal sleep cycle in the Health app, you'll be asked to do so. And once set up, your sleep cycle will appear in the settings here, and you can choose to automatically enable the focus mode to coincide with when you go to bed. As before, you can choose your custom home screen to complement your focus mode. So that completes our look at focus mode on iPhone. Visit the website for lots more tips on iOS and all your favourite apps. And if you found this video useful, I'd appreciate you giving me a like and hit subscribe for lots more quick tips like this one. Until next time, thank you very much for watching.